Hey everybody, it's Wisp, and I'm here excitedly to talk about the My Hero Academia The Strongest Hero first anniversary. I actually started this channel to talk about that game, among many other things, but that was one of the first things I talked about here. And now it's going on a year, and since then I've made a lot of great friends from that game and had a lot more really fun experiences with it. In the spirit of the anniversary and celebrating it, I want to talk about 5 characters that I am really hopeful to see in the game that I am also confident will not get in, except for as cards, if I'm lucky, active cards. I may not be the best at theory crafting, so if that's something that you want me to do better, then flood Brent Miller Games' YouTube channel and get him to teach me how to theory craft for this game, because he understands the intricacies and the mechanics of the game way better than I do. But what I can do is just give rundowns of what I think the character should play like and what mechanics I could see them doing. And anyone who knows me knows that I have to start this video out with Juzo Honenuki or Mudman from Class 1B. Alright, Juzo is a great character to me because one of the main things going for him is his flexibility. But I think another part of him that's kind of buried is that smile of his. He's very distinct and different from other people. In My Hero Academia, we follow the characters of a younger generation who are much more accepting of different people. But in the background, we do know that characters who look different, or heteromorphs, have a harder time, and while Juzo Honenuki is not a full heteromorph, he does always wear that mask that covers his entire face, and when it's broken, he seems kind of upset. And I think that that's something that is nicely building in the background for him, that maybe despite being a hero and having this great quirk, he is still struggling with that. And I want to see him overcome that, but since he's a minor character, we might not get too much of a story there. But the main thing for him, again, he is one of the recommended students from Class 1B, and while the other 3 recommended students have these really obviously amazing and flashy quirks, his is a little bit more subtle, but still just as great if he uses it right. With softening, he can make things soft and then enter them, go underground basically, or walk through what used to be a hard object, and he can reharden it. As long as it's not a living thing, he can soften it. So Juzo's story arc is about him being one of these recommended students that he notices he's not growing as fast as other people, such as Shoto and Ida. And despite his happiness in wanting to train with them further, he still has to find his own ways to grow. And we see that in the way that he's a very flexible person. He's fluent in Japanese and English. He's great as a leader, a powerhouse, or a scout, or an evacuation member. Basically, his story arc is about him doing everything that he can do to become a great hero, despite the fact that he's not really a specialist like a lot of the other characters are. He's flexible, and that's also a great place to be in. Gameplay-wise, I would expect a very tech-based character with Juzo Honenuki, someone that can touch the ground with one of his skills and lay a trap that place is now softened. If a foe goes up to that area, they fall in, and he can reharden it, or just let them slowly sink and do some damage to them. Maybe if it's hardened, they get stunned, and if he lets them sink, they get damage dealt. I also think he should be able to lay a line of his softening, which slows enemies down coming toward that line, but also speeds him up if he's walking on the line because he can swim through the hardened areas. And he should also get a damage-based skill where he knocks something down on top of the enemy, with his special skill being something that lets him go underground to evade attacks and also try to pop up from beneath the person. Something that could be counterable, similar to Ochako's flight, but instead of being up, he goes down. With his ultimate skill, of course, being based on the joint training arc where we last saw him fight, where he's going around softening a bunch of random things and knocking them down onto the enemy. I think there's a lot of potential there with the moveset. He might be, a technical character, someone that might not be the best on agency assessments, which is a very damage-dealing based mode, but would be a great stain count. And since I suck at fighting against stain, I would love to have him in as a stain counter, but also just someone that's great for arena in general. Or maybe those challenges where you get rewarded for not getting hurt. If he's a very mobile character instead of a very strong one, that mobility could really come in handy. Switching gears, another person that I would be very excited to see in the game is Kami. Kami is a student from Shiketsu High whose quirk deals in illusions. I think it's a really great quirk, and maybe in real life illusions can only cause anxiety, fear, and minor pain, but in a game, I think it'd be fair if they dealt some actual physical damage. She's a really cool character, and I think that she should be able to be put in the game. And, well, yes, she would probably get in as an active card. I think she would have a great moveset potential. A speed type role that focuses on herding enemies into similar areas, basically making her the opposite of Juzo, a great person for those modes where you're fighting several AI enemies, causing these illusions to get them to huddle around the same area and then wailing on them from there. Her ultimate pretty much exists in One's Justice 2, where she just turns into a giant and kicks people around or something. But they could use a variety of illusions and illusory things to flesh out her moveset, I think. I really like her character because she's kind of a caricature of the younger people and a lot of the audience probably of My Hero Academia, making fun of the slang and the speech patterns of a lot of younger people, but not in a way that is a direct call out or rude, just a funny way to turn a lot of people's common dialect into a character quirk, and I thought it was pretty funny, and I just think she's a good person. Another character that I'm excited to see, Gang Orca. Massive dude, literally an orca whale, very obvious power type, but I think it'd be a lot of fun in the game, and I like his character because he's a big softy that cares a lot about the students, but will also put them in their place, will be the bad guy when he needs to be, and wants the best for these kids. He wants them to become heroes in the best way that they can be heroes, not in his way. And I think Gang Orca would thrive in this game as a power type. He's got natural tough skin, damage resistance that could come in handy, but he's also a sonar-based fighter. His shrieks could do some pretty massive damage and AoE damage at that. And we see that with Hato's spirals. Maybe some of her skills look visually similar, but they all feel unique and play uniquely. So I think that Gang Orca could use that, mixed with his throws. We see him throw some people around a few times. His tail coming in handy. I mean, not many other people have a tail that they can fight with except for Ojiro, whose whole moveset is based off of it. So Ojiro swings his tail around for half of his moveset. I think it'd be fair if one of Gang Orca's skills was turning around and just slamming his tail down and doing some sort of a shockwave or earthquake damage with, again, a passive skill that gives him damage resistance. I think he'd be a lot of fun to play as, and he's a great person, and I like playing as characters that I like as people usually, like Shigaraki. That brings me to Vlad King, a person who I really like as a teacher and a person. We don't get to see him fight too much, but we learn from his interactions with people that he is one of those guys that's, you don't want to see him at night. He's terrifying, but he's got a heart of gold, and he loves his students more than anything. He's a very biased announcer, but that's from a place of love as well. Every time we see him, he's really supporting his students. Aizawa is a little bit more subtle and quiet with how much he loves his students, but Vlad doesn't hide it from anyone, much less them. He also just has a really cool quirk with blood manipulation, and that gauntlet that he has that extracts his own blood, I think is something that they could do a lot with. So we don't get to see him fight often at all. But when we do see him attack Dabi, he lifts the guy up with one hand and slams a wall and almost breaks the wall, showing that he does have naturally high strength, but then he's also got that cool quirk that he can make a net out of his blood. So that's some sort of a stun feature that can work that we've seen working with power types, so I do think that he would work best as a power type. But then he can also do some sort of a blood gauntlet, like how in a lot of anime or games we see people that kind of put something around their hand to make their hand even stronger. I think a blood gauntlet would work. And then maybe we could give him some sort of a skill that lets him, after a certain amount of combos, regenerate some HP, because he can both extract his own blood without feeling the effects of blood loss, and take his own blood back into his body. So I think that would work kind of well for a healing thing, or maybe it's the more damage dealt to him, the more powerful he becomes, because there's more ways he can utilize his blood. Something like that. I think either of those would be pretty fitting for him. And the last character that I have conceptually is a Gentle Criminal. Now, first off, wherever Gentle Criminal is, La Brava should be there. But I think they're misguided but amazing people who care about what they're doing, for one, which I always like. But also, I see heroism in both of them. Some traits that kind of define a hero that were just perverted by hero society. And I root for them, and I want to see them be good in other ways. But also, I just think the moveset would be a lot of fun. I think that as Gentle's running around the map, La Brava should be kind of trailing behind him. She should be able to get some of his combos, like maybe after he does the basic strike 4 times, she lets out a kick or something. The animations of her trying to film him as he's running around stages would be awesome. But I think he should be a tech fighter, and he could use his buoyancy, placing these barriers that, if the enemy hits them, it hurts them and stops them in their tracks, as one of his skills. Another skill lets him jump off of them. Another skill, or maybe another skill, lets him place them kind of away from him and guide the enemies toward each other. Another very hard to control character who I think could be great for mini modes While he would be tech-based, I think this would be a character that you need to really practice your speed with. Because if you're placing these barriers around, you need to remember when you placed them and what your purpose was, and use those to throw yourself around and deal massive damage, because if you place them in the right places, you can huddle enemies or quickly get from one enemy to another. I think it'd be a really fun character to try to control. I can appreciate that a lot of the characters I talked about seem really hard to create, but if there's one thing I can say about the My Hero, the Strongest Hero dev team, it's that they really are able to make unique characters that play and feel like that character should. If they've already done so much to make each character feel so unique to one another, I don't think that it'd be hard that if one or two of these characters got in, they really make it feel like they're reinventing the game, because every character that comes out reinvents the game in some way. They're not all always balanced or good in every or sometimes any mode, but they at least feel unique and fun to play as if you like that character or that playstyle. And again, there are other characters that I would love to think about, and I constantly do imagine how they could get into the game, like obviously Mirio or All For One. But these are the ones that I think a lot of people might overlook or have more of a chance of getting in as an active card, if anything at all, but definitely deserve their chance to shine as actual playable characters, and I just want to give them at least a little bit of the love they deserve. I really do hope that the Strongest Hero first anniversary has been treating you well. By the time I publish this, I will definitely be running around as Amajiki, and again, I hope that a lot of other people are as well, and that there was one surprise for us in store that I didn't know about when I made this video, and I make myself look like an idiot, because always fun to have that surprise, even if it does cost me a little bit of my dignity. Thank you, everybody, and until the next time we see each other.